In the world today, it's harder than ever to be a parent. Most of us are just trying to make it to the next day. Between jobs that take too much time away from our kids, to world events, to the dangers of social media, it's a never-ending battle to be a parent. Put that next to the guilt of too much TV. Are they eating enough healthy foods? You have a stress-induced, chaotic life with little balance. But here's the thing. We're all good parents. Because if you're stressing about your kids watching too much TV or new ways to get them to eat veggies because the old tricks won't work, then you care. And when it comes down to it, that's what counts. Now, we're not parenting experts. We don't always have useful advice. But what we do have is solidarity in that we're all going through the same things, be it at different times, but the same things nevertheless. And sometimes it's good to be reminded that other parents out there who are, despite how it appears, going through the same things you are. How do you want to start this?
Little introductions then. Who we are. So we are Becky and Dave Kaser. We have been married for 3.5 years and we have 2 kids. We have a boy who is 2 years old and we have a little girl who is 6 months old. And we really just wanted to share our experiences with everyone and hear from everyone out there. And really what drove us to do this is this little thing called COVID-19, which has changed our lives drastically. And we just wanted to record everything we've been going through and have an activity that we can do as a married couple once the kids go down to bed, instead of just watching Netflix or some other streaming channel. We wanted something to do that we can remember this time when our kids were crazy and little and life was just so hectic and awesome, but hectic.
Yeah, we felt like it might have been, the daily routine, get home, sit on the couch, watch TV after we put the kids down, and either watch something we've already seen or both be scrolling on social media while having something in the background 8 feet apart. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any reason to show social distance when we're at home. So
No.
So we are still probably technically sitting 6 feet apart, but
I think so.
Give or
we are
take
following the CDC guidelines during this podcast, just so everyone's aware.
We're being safe.
Yeah, and I think scrolling through social media too, it's great. You get to connect with people. You get to, just see a lot of things that we don't normally, like we're not normally connected to things.
Yeah, I mean,
much, but
social media has always been the same. I think everyone's always showing what the highlights are. They're only showing best life, and it really wasn't that big of a deal pre-COVID, and now with COVID and even in the middle of it, or maybe coming up to the tail end of it, who knows what's going to happen 6 months from now. It's that much more. Like, you see people doing things and out and about and, going hiking, going camping, obviously no cruises, but doing activities that, we never would have done anyways, but now it's like, you look at it and you're like, well, I kind of am not doing anything. That looks fun. Maybe I would do that.
Yeah. And I think there's both positives and negatives. There's definitely the positives, like you're saying, where you're like, I want to go hiking. Like they're, our family friends or my sister and her kids are doing this really fun activity. We want to do that too. And then there's the other spectrum right now, which is they are too close to other people in these photos. Or, the horrible things that we're seeing going on in our country and the world and with our neighbors and our friends. And so there's that, it can weigh heavily on you, but it also can be a really nice outlet right now when we aren't seeing as many people.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically, our bubble is our family and the grandparents. And every once in a while we'll see, the
extended family.
Yeah, the extended family, and that's a rare occasion. But typically we're all confined to the house still, even in March of 2021, which is when we're recording this.
And I will say we are very, very lucky because my parents live in our neighborhood. We did buy a house in the neighborhood that I grew up in, which I was thrilled about. I think Dave was thrilled about it.
There wasn't a choice.
There was no choice. It was the town I grew up in. It was ideally the neighborhood I grew up in. And even though we have one of the world's steepest driveways, and it probably drives my wonderful husband so crazy sometimes.
It's legitimately 40-degree.
It's very steep.
Incline.
We have to have all-wheel drive to get up it in the winter. But my parents live in the neighborhood. They literally live on the connecting street to us. My brother lives in this neighborhood a couple streets away. Him and his wife have 3 children. And recently, my mother-in-law, Dave's mom, moved 3 houses down from us across the street, which has been really great. It's so amazing for this time of our lives and during COVID, because it's so nice to have them just pop by, or we can pop by their houses. They watch our kids during the day a couple times a week, and it's just been so nice during this time to have them so close. And I think our kids are probably some of the luckiest kids in the world, because they get to see their grandparents literally every day. And some people, it's an annual or, a couple of times a year thing, and they literally get to see them whenever they want.
Yeah, I mean, when we grew up, or I should say when I grew up, I only had my grandparents on my mom's side, and they lived in town. They were maybe a couple minutes away. But we grew up going there and did family dinner there every Saturday or Sunday, I want to say, one of the weekend days, depending on what the schedule's allowed. But we saw our extended family there too. All of our cousins and anybody that lived in town would come, as long as they were within, I think, an hour away. So it was a big family gathering, and that's how we were raised. Dad's side of the family didn't have anything like that. My dad's dad passed away well before I was born, and my grandma, she passed sometime that I don't remember. I was too young to remember that. So but it was the way we were raised, and I think it really helped us kind of become who we are and really have our family values that we have. And again, that kind of happened with COVID too, but that's part of the reason why we're doing all this, but isn't necessarily the reason we have our values per se.
What else about us?
I don't know. We got off on a little tangent there.
We did. We just really wanted to introduce you guys to us, to Becky and Dave, and we immediately got off on several tangents. Welcome to Becky and Dave.
Which is probably going to happen a lot. We have some episodes planned out. We've got probably the first 12 or so planned out, and this is our first time ever making a podcast, so forgive us for the crudeness of any recording or anything like that. I promise it will get better.
Yes.
It definitely will get better. In fact, this is our second try at doing this. Our first try was interrupted by our 6-month-old sleep training, which happened, Which we cheated on.
We cheated, but she's asleep now, and now we can do this.
Yeah, that'll be a future episode, sleep training. Why it's worth it.
At least for us, anyways.
Yes. It sucks, but man, is it worth it. Us. I grew up in the Midwest, happened to move to the only eastern-ish city that happens to be a Midwestern feel. It just so happens. So, fit right in. And grew up my entire life in the Midwest, minus the few years I lived in Tennessee. And used to have a southern accent, a very, very thick southern draw as a Asian 4-year-old in rural Tennessee. That was the best place to move to, was the Midwest, because it just kind of flattened all that out. It doesn't come out much anymore at 34 years old, I want to say. Soon to be 35 this year.
In August. Not that soon.
Same birthday as my daughter.
That's right.
It'll overshadow it. Her first birthday will overshadow my 35th.
You've never loved your birthday.
I don't love birthdays.
No,
That's
but
another thing.
it was when I was pregnant with our daughter, her due date was pretty close to Dave's birthday, and so kind of the running joke throughout my pregnancy was, well, maybe she'll be born on your birthday and then you'll finally love your birthday. And some force out there was like, yep, she's going to be born on your birthday. She was born a week and a half early. So
it was meant to be.
It was meant to be, birthday buddies.
It was a planned birth. We had a planned date.
Yes, we had a planned C-section scheduled because I had a C-section with my first, but she had other plans. And wanted to share a birthday with Daddy.
And that'll be another future episode.
It will.
Every single time you try to go to the hospital and have a baby, they try to send you home.
They do. At least in our experience.
unless everything goes according to plan, which doesn't seem to happen.
No,
based
our
on
kids were stubborn coming
yes.
out. They still are stubborn.
Yeah.
They were stubborn coming out as well.
We were sure they got it from one of us.
A little bit of both.
Probably.
Probably too much from both. I grew up where we live now. As I said, we live in the neighborhood that I grew up in. I moved away for college, and then I moved away a year after college, continued to live away, and then moved back because I wanted to be near my family who were starting to have their own kids at the time, and I wanted to be the cool aunt and hang around, and found a really good job here and have just loved this city, and then eventually met my wonderful husband, even though that could be a 3-4 podcast in itself, just finding my person. I am, maybe it'll come across in this podcast, but I am kind of an awkward person. I'm not the most social or outgoing person there is.
It helps being in an enclosed space like this.
It does. So finding Dave was my miracle in life. And
I like that. I think we should have a podcast
we should,
like that.
how we met.
I think it'll be interesting to hear stories that I probably never heard, and you've probably never heard some of my stories. I don't know. Yeah. I think it'll be fun. I think that'd be fun.
We should do that in the future.
The whole point of this is to again have an activity that we both can do. Mm-hmm. Maybe have some fun along the way. Mm-hmm. Maybe find some people who are going through the same stuff we are, and that's really it. It doesn't have much more meaning behind it other than that.
Yeah. And I know on this particular go of the podcast, we are kind of painting things in like a really great light, as like our family lives nearby and we found each other and we have these great kids and all this stuff. But we are going to talk about the ups and the downs. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to celebrate the highs and talk through the lows, and share it all with you. Leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is there's enough stuff out there on social media that's sunshine, rainbows, and everything that's good at only showing the best sides. But here's the thing: is that not everything has the bright side to it. There's always going to be the rougher side, and that's reality. I think everybody felt that during 2020 in some way, shape, or form. I was always joking that we had too normal of a life. Everything was a little too easy or uneventful, whatever you want to call it. And in our lifetime, we've hit multiple, historical events we've had. So I've lived through a lot of historical events, as have the rest of us who are listening to this, all probably 2 of you. And, it's you hear your parents talk about it, the World Wars or any other war.
I don't think our parents were alive during the World Wars.
Grandparents, okay.
They're
still technically parents. I dug my way out of that. Or the gas crisis of whenever the hell that happened. I remember my grandma talking about that. It's just, we lived through a lot of this stuff, and it's interesting, this generation, with all the technology we have and all the media and how it skews things, and honestly, we'll probably never talk about anything like that because that's way too political for either one of us.
Yes.
That's probably one thing you won't hear us talk about is political things. Mm-hmm. It has an impact, but you know what? There are much better things to talk about than that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's always helped me is when I'm looking for mom stories, or when I've been up at 3 a.m. wondering, will my daughter ever sleep through the night? Will, I bond with my son because I pumped and he was bottle fed. When
Another
I'm up,
episode.
Another episode, yes. But those times when you're kind of looking for almost validation as to how you're feeling in the middle of the night on social media, on the internet, and you're only finding like the best case scenario stories, and you almost want that nitty gritty story of like, I can connect with this mom who also struggled with this. My mom friends or my siblings, when we share the struggles, it's always helped me more than people sharing their successes. Not because I want to, I don't want anyone to be successful, but me as a mom, it's always helped me when someone else is sharing their bad day, because I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because I have bad days too, and I have days where I really struggle, and it alleviates that pressure a little bit of always having to be perfect and feel like you can't make a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, and we all strive to be the best parent we can be. And that's another thing, is we all try to be the best parent we can be, whether or not we plan to be a parent or not. And that's, if you had a kid, you kept a kid, you made whatever worked with whoever you had the kid with, you're still trying. Mm-hmm. And that's really all you can do, is just try.
Yeah,
do the best that you can. Yeah, and
do your best.
I joke a lot that there's a cartoon that Owen loves to watch. And I'll admit, I kind of like watching it too.
I think Dave likes this cartoon more than our son Owen.
If you're saying that I watched the episodes when they drop prior to showing them to our son for the first time, then yes. That is true. But in any case, Ludo, a Australian company, which was picked up by Disney Broadcasting, and it's on Disney now and Disney Plus, which I'm sure everybody has if you've got a kid, is Bluey. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. It's amazing. It'll make you feel feelings of sad, happy, and being proud to be a parent. But the dad bandit follows a bunch of blue healers, a mom and dad and two daughters who are a couple years apart, similar to our kids. And it paints a picture of the parents doing the best they can, and also, being really good parents at the same time. I don't think you should model your parent behavior off of a cartoon dog. I'm not saying that by any means, but it is fun to watch. And, I think about that too, that, I strive to be the best dad that I can be for both my kids. My son's 2 years old and a little over 2. I try to be as good as I can be for him. And our daughter is 6 months, just turned, or just over. Mm-hmm. And, she's in that stage now where she's just starting to kind of figure things out a little bit, recognizing us, more, appreciating that we're holding her rather than somebody else. So she's still in that kind of in-between phase.
She's very snuggly.
She's very snuggly with you. We try the best we can do. And, that's, I think, working parents, we're both full-time. That's another thing. We're both full-time working parents. We pay for child care for most of the week and have grandparents help us out the other to help kind of lessen the burden of the cost of child care. Because anybody who's paying it knows that it's a crazy, crazy cost.
It's a lot, but it also, at least for us, has been so great for our family and so great for, I say both of our kids. Our daughter has only been going for like a month. So
yeah. 2 days ago, no, yesterday was her first full day.
Yes. Yes, and she finally took a bottle. But our son, we noticed that when he went back to daycare after probably taking 6 to 7 months off due to COVID, and because I was pregnant, and when we had our daughter, we decided to still keep him home with us until she was a little bit older. But we did notice that when we sent him back, his language exploded. He was saying so many more words, and even now every day he's saying more and more sentences. He did tell me to go away the other day, so that was a new sentence I didn't love, but it means he's growing and learning. So, again, the ups and downs of things. Whereas, yes, daycare costs a ton, and we are part-time, and we still spend a good chunk of money on it, but we have found a really great daycare that really aligns with our values and how, like, we are raising our kids, and they also help us teach our kids, because there's so many things I think that he learns at daycare that we just wouldn't even think of to teach him.
Yeah, I mean, like, so Becky works 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
8 to 5.
8 to 5, and she works 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. I'm closer to 43.5 to be exact. But my hours vary. I work anywhere from 8:30 to 7 on any given day, other than Wednesdays and Sundays. It's the nature of the business, and it quite honestly sucks for having a family.
I was just about to say, it sucks.
It's terrible. Retail is the worst schedule for when you're trying to raise a kid, and that's the problem. So if you take those time frames into effect, I get out at 6 o'clock or 7, bedtime 6, or 7, sorry, bedtime 7, and it just doesn't give enough time. When in the time of the day between making dinner, giving baths, are you going to teach your kids how to do these
how
things?
To count, or the alphabet.
One day a week, if you work on counting, it doesn't work. Since Owen's been able to go back to daycare, which again was a whole thing that we had to talk about, because he went back. It was post COVID, but still in the heat of it.
Not post COVID. It was in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, well, it was in the middle of the COVID, but it was kind of past that high point. Let me put it this way. We live in upstate New York. Upstate New York was the worst region in New York, and in parts of the country we ranked as being the worst for spreading.
At the time we sent him back to daycare.
And what we took in consideration, we looked at daycare. Daycare closed for 2 weeks, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks max, before they reopened for essential workers and everybody else. And in that time frame, up until that point, they had no cases. Since then, I think there's been one, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it was
I
a
don't
teacher.
think any kids
No kids have had it.
Yeah. They're very, very safe, and we trust them completely.
And here's the thing too, is our daycare is not a fancy daycare. It's not one of those daycares that's a progressive daycare. It's a normal daycare. It has a above average playground. I think that's maybe the most advanced thing about it. But everyone that runs it is great, and
it felt very real for us. It wasn't. That was really important for us when we were looking for daycares. It was a place that would feel like home to our kids when they went there, and this was the place that we felt the most comfortable. The director, the assistant director, it's where they felt most like us in how we raise our own kids. Our director sends her son there, so it just felt right for us.
Yeah.
I think there's some people that they might value other things, and that's completely fine. But, you have to find a place that feels right for you, because, like we said, you are spending a lot of money on it. So if you don't feel right about it, you probably need to make a change. But
it costs as much as a car annually.
And again, we're part-time, and that's okay.
It costs as much as a nice car.
And
full-time.
you guys will come to find out that Dave loves cars. So the fact that this costs as much as the car, that's a big deal for him.
It is. It is. It is. But here's the thing: is that I can always find another hobby, but I want to make sure our kids are taken care of. So for me, it's a no-brainer spending money on childcare, on learning, on whatever it might be. And I'm the first one to be guilty of, I don't want to say spoiling, but maybe providing surprises and treats to our kids.
Spoiling. That's exactly what it is. Spoiling our child. Between having the nanas so close, having hand-me-downs from my siblings, I don't think we've had to buy any clothing for our kids because we've been lucky enough to we have bought clothing, but we didn't have to because we had bins and bins and bins of hand-me-downs from my sister, my brother and sister-in-law, my sister and brother-in-law's friends gave us hand-me-downs for our daughter because they don't have daughters. So we have gotten very lucky in that. So we spend our money on spoiling our children.
Well, and here's the thing too, is that, and this might only apply to us. I know a lot of people have images that they like to uphold, and we're not one of those families that really hangs our hat on having a image, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So what we found is that, you know, we got a lot of free clothes, and I think that if you ever have a kid and you know someone's having a kid, you should totally give your hand-me-downs to them. It'll save them a ton of money, and they'll be really thankful for it, no matter what the condition is, even if they're a little tattered or whatever it might be. It's going to save them a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. And we have made sure we pass ours along to friends and neighbors as well because we don't want it in our basement anymore. We're actually sitting where all the bins of clothes used to be, but we've gotten them out of the house because we wanted to make sure we passed those along since we were so fortunate enough to receive them.
Bags and bags and totes and totes. But what we found is that honestly, when it comes down to it, your kid's going to wear the same clothes, maybe I want to say 10 outfits at max.
Yes.
Because here's the thing is that you're going to be doing laundry all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you really just keep recycling the clothes.
Yeah, I think for two reasons. First, you find the couple that you really like. If you find a shirt that your kid looks adorable in, you're going to keep putting them in it. The second reason is you do that laundry, you bring it upstairs, you don't actually put that laundry away. So it stays on the first floor, at least in our house. Again, that might be us. This might be us, but in our house it stays in the family room or in the dining room, which since COVID has become the drunk room / my office. So it stays in one of those two rooms, so then you just pull it from the top and keep putting the same outfit on them. And then there's adorable outfits, I'm sure, that are in his drawers that he's just never worn, but we have become attached to the 10 outfits that they wear regularly.
Even pre-COVID that happened, though.
Yes, no, that is true.
Pre-COVID, we still kind of did that, minus the laundry baskets in the all over the place.
Yeah. We started with like 3 laundry baskets, and now we have a combination of laundry baskets and bins that we use for laundry.
That's what the clothes came in.
Yes, yes.
They work great as laundry baskets.
They do.
Especially when you do laundry on a daily basis.
I don't know if we do it on a daily basis.
Every other day.
Yeah, at least one load every other day probably, because Owen has probably peed through his sleep sack.
Yeah, they don't make a leak-proof nighttime diaper.
No.
We're right in that change of nighttime diaper / moving over to nighttime underwear.
Yeah, one thing we would actually love to hear from everyone out there on is potty training. Because I feel like it's maybe around the corner, maybe in a couple months. We have a little potty that we try to get Owen to sit on occasionally, but I just feel like we have no idea what we're doing. And the only advice I have received is don't force it. But if anyone has any great tips or tricks for potty training,
yes, please send them our way.
Share.
We will have an email at some point to send that to. Not right now, but at some point. Well, and all the potty training that's happened so far is happened at daycare and has resulted in peed pants.
Yes.
But to your point, not knowing what we're doing, I kind of feel like that's parenting in general. You really don't know what you're doing. You can get advice from other families, other parents, your parents, grandparents, internet, YouTube, because everybody goes to YouTube for things now. Mm-hmm. That's basically the video wiki page. And when it comes down to it, it's different for everybody. Yeah.
I think you can prepare all you want, but, your kids don't come with a manual, even though everyone says, I wish these kids came with a manual, ha ha ha. But, every kid is different, and I thought I was really prepared for having kids. And then I remember this, pivotal moment where after our son was born, the nurse said I had to feed him every 3 hours. And like in my head, I was like, "What? That's way too." So we had gone to birthing classes. I had read all the books. I knew
Birthing classes did absolutely nothing. Birthing classes did nothing.
They weren't, and not that we had a great instructor in class. I think it's just you're in such a crazy time of your life where you're pregnant or your spouse is pregnant or your partner is pregnant, and you're just trying to deal with the pregnancy piece, that you go to these classes. But at least for me, I don't think a ton sunk in. I thought I would just like naturally be this like gifted mother. Didn't happen. But yeah, I remember that being a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I have to feed them that much, which yeah, you have to feed your kids all the time when they're little, every 2 to 3 hours when they're babies. But you can prepare as much as you want, and it's never going to go exactly as you think it is, and there's always going to be, something that throws you for a loop.
Yeah, our birthing class was great. I mean, basically a birthing class is watching a video, reading a book, and maybe doing a couple activities that teach you how to do a job. Now, fast forward to the first day of that job. It's your only day you're going to be there. The stress is high. Mm-hmm. You have to remember everything that happened whenever you took that training course, and you're expected to do it all while under an immense amount of pressure and pain. And that's
also,
what
afterwards, you don't sleep for at least 3 months.
So you totally should do a birthing class. It's what you should do. But don't think that it's going to solve all the problems, because it doesn't.
Yeah. And just be gentle with yourselves. If you are pregnant and listening to this and you're like, oh crap, what did I get myself into? A whole heck of a lot, but you're going to be great and it's going to be fine. And, like I said, we're here to share the highs and lows. And, we don't want to paint a picture that we have it all together, because we don't.
No, not
at all. I think I worry on a daily basis about the amount of TV our children are consuming, and then I also at the same time allow them to watch a good amount of TV. So, you're going to have things that you feel like you crushed and you were like, yes, A+ parenting right there, and then things that you're like, well, maybe they're going to talk about this in therapy one day, but it's all okay.
Well, and that's what gets you through it too. Mm-hmm. I mean, the highs, accomplishing something, we had Owen, we put him down for, not nap, we put him down to bed tonight, and, he, like we said, he's starting to talk a little bit more, he's being more vocal and expressing himself, much better than I would have thought a 2-year-old could. I don't know any other 2-year-olds, so I guess I have no standard. But I asked him just to say Ohana. He loves Stitch. And in case you haven't seen Stitch or know what that means, it means family. And not skipping a beat, he looked at me and said it. That to me felt like a high.
Yes, that was a parenting one.
At the same time, fast forward maybe 45 minutes before that, I did not want to give him a bath. And I felt like maybe going a week without a bath would have been okay. He had one Saturday, he had one Sunday. He probably could get till, Sunday, Saturday again. Not a big deal. And told him he could watch TV if he didn't want to do the bath. He insisted on the bath, insisted on me giving it to him. And when we got up there and got ready for the bath, he decided he didn't want to do it. So, gave him a bath anyways, brought him back down, let him watch some more TV. That wasn't a great moment, and didn't feel great about that. The lows for me typically are I don't want to do this, because I want to do everything for our kids. If they want to do something, I want to give it to them, within reason. Not going to let them become crazy and super spoiled or anything like that, but I don't want to lament about having to do something like taking them somewhere or doing something with them if they want me to play with them. And sometimes those are my lows that I have. But but the little wins, get you through that. And it's the same thing too when I went through this 2 weeks ago, I want to say, or maybe last week, when I felt like he didn't like me as much. And Becky smirks because it's silly.
I'm snickering because Dave is Owen's favorite person in the entire world, and it is very apparent to everyone else in the entire world that he is Owen's favorite person.
But it just so happened last week
Yes.
he wasn't giving the same affections. He might have been shifting them a little bit towards Becky or anybody else, and I kind of felt like at that moment that, you know, maybe it was that time for it to shift, that time for someone else to be in the spotlight, and I certainly didn't want that. Again, there's times where I don't want to do stuff that he wants me to do, like pick him up and swing him around or chase him around a inflatable pool because he just thinks it's hilarious to try to chase you until you catch up to him. But it just felt at that moment like that might be it, you know, because here's the thing, at some point it probably is going to happen and it's going to shift, and that's just the way it works. It doesn't mean I'm going to love him any less, and doesn't mean we're not going to get through it, but you know, I thought maybe that time had come at that point. It was stupid, and I'm still his favorite.
Yeah, that's pretty apparent day in and day out.
comes with its burdens.
That's okay. Our daughter Emily is like, I'm her favorite.
You were the only one that was allowed to hold her
for like probably two full months.
Based on her screaming when anybody else picked her up.
It was a little concerning that she would scream when, like, Dave would pick her up. I was like, maybe I've been the only one holding her a little bit too much. And we can get into that another day.
Another episode.
Yes, another episode. But we fed them differently. So Owen was bottle fed. I pumped for 6 months. He never latched, and Em latched like a champ. And so I was able to, and still am breastfeeding her. So I think that it's because, you know, I got to have that bond a little bit sooner with her, so I like literally was like, this is my precious. I golemed and was like, I don't want to let her go. She is my precious.
In case you haven't figured it out yet or don't realize we're a bunch of nerds. But I figured out the title for that episode. It'll be Bottle Breast SNS.
Gosh, SNS. I'm going to have a lot to say about that. And probably not a lot of good things to say about that.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, you did love it. And it was like hell on earth for me.
Like we said.
We will talk about that more later.
It's definitely worth a hearing for sure. So when that drops, definitely tune in for that.
I'm going to be heated on that podcast. I'm just letting everyone know now.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Well, where are we at right now? Well, we're at 40 minutes right now.
Wow.
And I don't know. I think maybe we wrap it up from here.
Yeah, I think this was a good first run for us. And I'm actually really, really excited to do more. I was really nervous and thought, there's no way we're going to be able to talk for 10 minutes even. And here we are 40 minutes later.
I mean, we've been married 3 years. We've had talks longer than 10 minutes. But I get it.
Not that you and I wouldn't be able to talk for that long, but that I thought I would freeze, which I did a couple of times during this. I know you noticed it.
We'll edit it out.
We'll edit those out. But
If
I
everything
thought
goes right,
I was
nobody
going to
heard
be
that.
too awkward to do this. And I am having some red wine, so I think that is helping. But I think I can do this.
Yeah, I've had bourbon. It's all good.
And no children woke up once we started. So that is a win.
Yes.
We'll end on a win.
They're 2 floors above us right now, and if they screamed, you wouldn't hear it. The monitor is on silent. So yeah, this was our introduction. You know, we're going to be, like I said, we've got some episodes planned out. We'll probably have the first 12 planned out. Hopefully going to be getting these out in succession. Editing might be a little bit rough. Again, this is our first
before, yeah.
Our first time doing anything like this, but we thought that it'd be a good bonding experience.
And hopefully someone out there listens, but if not, we have some great mementos for the future and for our kids. And
hey,
yeah,
posterity is posterity. It'll be great either way. So this is what it'll be like most of the time. You know, seeing how far we get. Maybe we'll have guests. Maybe we'll get better stuff, better equipment.
I'm excited about having guests.
we'll have to figure out how to do that in a COVID world.
Maybe one day we'll be able to have guests at our house.
That would be fantastic. But that would mean we have to clean.
And it has been a while since we did a big clean.
Yeah, and fix a couple things.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Anyone that we invite over knows that we're probably not like going to have the most pristine house on the block.
No. But that's okay. We have the
Yes.
most fun. And that's really what it's all about. Is having fun and getting through it and being the best parent that you can be. And that's kind of what this is all about, you know. Yeah. At the heart of it, it's really just husband and wife just doing something an activity together.
Yeah.
Both of us need a hobby that doesn't cost a ton of money, and here we go. But honestly, it's more about just being a parent in general. You know, being the best parent that you can be. We're all trying really hard to do that, whether it's, you know, working 2 jobs and trying to make ends meet, or, you know, only one person working while one person stays home. I tell you what, COVID and furlough, I give respect to any homemaker out there.
Oh my gosh.
And
yes.
It's a lot harder of a job than I ever would have thought, and I respect everybody who does that.
Yeah, if you are a stay-at-home parent out there, holy crap, you're amazing. I wish the world would pay you more because you deserve like the salary of a CEO. You're incredible. Seriously.
So on that, I think we're going to end this first podcast, our introduction to the series itself. So I look forward to doing more of this, and hope that there's somebody out there who is listening.
Yeah, thanks everyone.